We're in the old mining camp, or community of Clinton, folks, also known as Searsville, which began in the 1850s, had about 100 structures. Now today there's modern housing, like you see over here. However, back in the day, you know, there were saloons and stores and things typical that the miners could utilize. Many of these roads lead to abandoned mines, or the mines no longer exist. Actually, they did a lot of placer mining. See, there's a creek down there. So there really wasn't any shaft mining or tunneling going on. But the miners did live. There's a piece of metal. That's probably from the mining days. But the miners did live back here. And they did bite along the small creeks for placer gold. And we'll talk about the town more when I visit the cemetery. All that remains of the original town is the church foundation, because they moved the church. What they did is they moved the church and relocated it to some historic museum or something in 2000. But the foundation's still there and the cemetery still exists, and we'll probably cook out at the cemetery or at our next location. We'll decide. I don't know, man. I don't think that's the cemetery. It's a little side road to the left near the intersection. But I may have to go back on Clinton Road and find it the other way, but we'll find it. The roads are very narrow, big enough for one vehicle. Just a little semi-ghost town. I almost bought or rented a home out here. Yeah, see, these are homes. I almost rented a home. There are a few structures we'll try to find, but it was a country home. Long windows, meadow, nice view, woods, wood floors, wood stove. It was gorgeous and hella cheap, but we didn't get it. This is many years ago, and that's fine. I mean, it's really remote back here. If anything happens, you have no access to the store. You can't get food or supplies. And back in the day, it was very hard for the miners to do so, and that's why this community really died out and didn't last very long. But this is in the Sierra foothills, or the lower end of the Sierras. There's a lot of vineyards today and orchards in the area, but the mining is long gone. And I'm going to turn around up here because I think I'm getting out of my way. I need to stay closer to the crossroads. But it doesn't hurt to look, but there is no place to turn around now. So if you live here and you turn the wrong way, you're screwed.
Follow the road for a bit.
Here we go. Yep. There's a lot of residential back here, folks. Just a lot of residential. It's not a big deal. And this camp began by Chilean miners from Chile and Hispanics. It was the primary types of miners, ethnicity of the miners found back here. And it actually was more than just a mining camp. It was also a stage stop. And so we're following the old stage routes through here. They're very narrow. So if you took a wagon and you ended up, the horse spooked and, you know, people died. They rolled down these ravines, these cliffs. But we'll see what we can find. I'm going to get to the cemetery. We can at least do that, and then I'll talk about the town a little more, and we'll take some pictures and have some fun, you know. That's what it's really about. It's about having a good time. If we get some ghosts, some EVPs, that's fine. But I don't expect it. I just expect to have a good time and explore a little history, and whatever happens, happens, man. We just left Black Chasm Caverns, and now we're exploring the semi-ghost town of Clinton, also known as Searsville. Oh, man. No hunting or fishing. I'm telling you it's back here. If it's not, I'll turn around, but I'm telling you it's here. And you can tell nobody's been here. Look at the weeds. He had a regular vehicle, these weeds wouldn't exist.
This is somebody's property.
Shit. Wait a second. Just give me a second. This is all rusty shit back here.
Is that a turkey?
Oh yeah, there was 10 little babies. I didn't film them. I tried to take a pic and they all went in the brush. But there was a lot of babies. On the map, this looks like a cemetery, but I'm thinking it was a garden I seen and not the cemetery. Now I don't know where the cemetery is.
Because It does look like one, so you get up on top of it.
Yep. Oh, man. We're standing downtown Clinton. I'm still trying to find the cemetery, but prospectors in 1849 traveled from the Muckalumne River through Clinton on the way to Diggins and Volcano. Of course, we looked for Diggins earlier and didn't find Diggins. It was overgrown, but in the early 1850s, the camp of Clinton became a market town, supplying the placer miners in the middle and southern forks of Jackson Creek, and later the shale quartz mines around Irishtown and Clinton. As a stop on the stage road between Jackson, Aqueduct City, and Volcano, Clinton grew, and by 1852 it had 100 clapboard and canvas houses and the area's only hotel. The camp was predominantly occupied by Mexican, Chilean, and French miners. The Spagnoli family, proprietors of the main mercantile store and ranch, helped secure Clinton's future by also developing the ditches that supplied water to the placer claims. We've seen a few driving around. Around the Clinton area, one Samador was formed in 1854. Clinton entrepreneur Thomas Lohr petitioned the county to declare the road from Jackson to Clinton a public road. In 1877, Clinton was still alive and enough for the Garbarini brothers to build the St. Peter and Paul's Catholic Church, which remained when the town disappeared. In 2003, the descendants of the Gabarinis returned to restore the small church, and it was moved to the Kennedy Mine Foundation grounds in Jackson. There is a cemetery here, and there should be some remnants of the church, but I'm having trouble finding it, so it's quite possible that we may not find it. I mean, it is overgrown, and there's a lot of private property now. So, folks, we just passed Clinton Road. We're heading out of here. It was a bust. We found a historic plaque, but the foundation of the church at the intersection's gone. I mean, I've heard a few years ago I read it was there, but there is a lot of new houses, and the graves are supposedly unmarked, so we would never even see the gravestones. So that's all that really remains of Clinton, is just a historic plaque. Nothing more. Not even a wagon, not even a wagon wheel. Kind of spooky. So we'll head on to our next location, which is the Jackson Butte, or they call it Mountain Butte. It's got multiple names. It's a volcanic butte, 2,000 feet above Jackson. And I just wanted to go up there, explore some of the abandoned foundations. You know, just get a nice view, soak it up, and then we'll head off to our other ghost towns, Dry Town and Old Chicago. This is Lord Rick. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Jackson Butte, or Mountain Butte. There's a couple names for it. It's a couple thousand feet above Jackson, and it's visible from all points in Jackson almost. And we're going to go drive to the top and explore an old power station, do some urbex, and get some scenic pictures. There's the Butte. It doesn't really look a couple thousand feet, but we've been ascending since we've been in Jackson. You can see it. It's more like a hill. It's a volcanic. There's a scientific word, but I have my notes I'll have to look at. But it was formed via volcanic activity thousands of years ago. And it's extinct. I mean, the volcano's no longer active. But I've been here, and the last time I was here, I was homeless. It was about 7 years ago. I went with a friend, and he had a little two-door car, and we drove to the top. So it's a narrow road. The last mile is very narrow and steep, but it is doable. Like I said, his car had ball tires, and he made it to the top. And we parked, and we wandered, and I think my camera phone died. That's all I had at the time. It's my camera phone or something. So I couldn't take no pictures. I was like, grr. But I have a chance to take pics. And there was an 80,000 acre fire up here, and 2 to 5 people had died or perished in the fire. And the fire started at the Butte. And it wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past me if meth heads or crackheads had started it, because a lot of homeless people would come up to the Butte. You know, they'd camp out here or live here up at the top. Of course, I doubt that problem exists anymore. The homeless shelter's long since been closed. And so you're not getting people coming up here from the city who want to stay. But here's a good picture spot, maybe. I don't know. No, it's blocked. I'll find a good picture spot, but you can see that's where the antenna is. There's a bunch of old buildings up there, and I don't know if they tore them down or what happened during the fire, but it's worth checking out. Getting closer to the Butte. I know this is not a major thing, folks, as far as paranormal goes, but I do think it's a pretty cool site to share with my fans and members on the website and kind of let them be able to see what this place looks like from far away and up close. I'll do some far away video on the other side of Jackson too. That way you get what it's like above as it is below. Almost there, it says. Hopefully they don't have it gated. Too many kids were going up here drinking at the top. Personally, myself, I'm not. I might have myself a beer if I make it to the top. There we go. Maybe I can stand here and get a picture. Yes, I know where we're going now. Nobody's up here. Just a bunch of $1 million homes. That's the Butte. We're almost there. Slow, narrow road, creatures, critters, and cranky people. How about people that might eat you or bury you on their property and keep your vehicle? Trust me, I've experienced it out here just about. They should have creepy people on the sign because some people will rob your vehicle for a gram of meth. It's a tertiary volcanic neck or butte that overlooks Jackson. The Miwok for thousands of years set foot here. Is probably a very sacred spiritual place. And we're going to climb to the top, park up at the peak. It's a nice view. It's one of the only, well, it's one of the tallest geological landmarks in the Jackson area since Jackson kind of sits in a valley. You have the Butte kind of overshadowing it. On a clear day, you can kind of see Lake Tahoe. But we're going to drive to the top. It's not very far. It looks high, but it's a couple thousand feet above Jackson. We've been already ascending, so we don't have that much more to go. And we'll take this road, it's paved, to the top. There are people who live back here. You know, they've been building homes. There was no, I'll tell you what, I didn't see half of these homes. Like, that's new. That wasn't there 7 years ago. But people come up here. Private property. This is just great. Used to be able to ride up here. I can't turn around. There should be nobody living here at the peak. We'll see what happens. I won't be here long anyway, so if I park at the peak, it is what it is. There's a lot of people go hiking, and they sometimes just park here and hike around the peak. Like I said, 8 years ago, it was a different type of ball game. Hell, the Clinton Foundation, the town of Clinton or Searsville, had a church foundation. That's probably long gone. That's the Kings. This road, however, we're at the peak. This is it right here. See? This is it. Crazy, huh? It is not very high up or far. Yep, and this is the peak. It's been years since I've been up here, and I'm not even sure we can go to the top. There should be some... Oh yeah, we're here. Look at this. There's buildings and...
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, look at that scenery.
Yeah. You see Folsom Lake up here.
Amazing.
It's what it's like at the top of the Butte, folks. It's pretty nice, huh? There's the town of Jackson below.
Watch out for these spikes.
There's a little more. I'm going to show you another building coming up. I don't know what these buildings were for. Maybe old powerhouse buildings.
Ooh, look. Oh.
I don't know what was up here. An old radio station, power station, communication station. It's hard to say. There's other foundations. I'll show you in a little bit. I was here many years ago. It says open the mountain.
don't look at that. Oh, where bug is that?
But the Miwoks call Jackson their home. Okay, the city of Jackson just below. And when we get to the top, I'll film it a little better so you can see it. But, you know, there's over 50 historic structures that were built around the time of the Civil War that still stand in Jackson today, making it one of the most historic towns in all of California. But this is a Turatiri volcanic neck. So yes, it was a volcano. And I don't know what's up here. There might even be somebody living on the property, so we need to really be careful. The view. Wow. A lot of communication equipment. Ooh. Pristine beauty. Want to see what's even better? It's the High Sierras. We just came from there. But yeah, Jackson last year experienced a Butte fire. 70,000 acres. By its first day, 14,000 acres were burned. Last I remember, there was all kinds of buildings up here. No more though. They probably removed most. Kids would come up here to do drugs. Jackson has a meth problem. A lot of drunk driving too. Oh yeah. Look at the view. Guys, look at the view. Ooh. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Very pretty. Little volcanic spires and rocks, like the ones found here. Florrick of the Paranormal Ghost Society. We're standing on Mountain Butte, Jackson Butte. It has multiple names. Jackson's a historic town. It started off kind of as a mining camp, and it grew further, eventually, into a pretty large boom town. I lived here for 3 months. My girlfriend always laughs because, you know, I told her a little story that I was homeless. What are these flowers? And you know, I used to live here. You can see it, we're 2,000 feet above Jackson. Jackson's a mix of ranch land, abandoned mines, mills. It's a commercial center for a lot of the local towns like Clinton, for example. Clinton Road runs through here. Clinton was a stage stop. They had Aqueduct, Irish Town. There was a lot of communities. I used to live at a homeless shelter, and the drama in this town, drugs, fights, nude women running down the street. There was a lot of drama. That's why I moved out. But I was homeless. I stayed at a homeless shelter, tried to get on my feet. Couldn't find any residential. All the homes are taken or too much here. It's very high cost of living. I came here about 8 years ago with a friend. We just chilled up here. I think I toked up a bowl. But we did a lot of paranormal investigations. This is all gold country. That's the Sierras in the distance. But a lot of little towns in these rolling hills. And every town has a ghost story or two. Or a very historic cemetery. But this area was first seen by the white man in the late 1840s during the gold rush. And, you know, I was a hero to the homeless people in Jackson. Because the homeless people, well, the homeless shelter was kind of abusing its residents. You know what I'm saying? They had the lady next door was locking us in at night, but her and her sons were doing drugs and getting drunk, and they were mistreating us and accusing us of doing stuff. So I decided to get my revenge. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to be like the Robin Hood of homeless people in Jackson. So I started handing out clothes and food and pots and pans to all the homeless people. I was a hero. because the homeless population in Jackson's very high. And I was a hero. And I was Lord Rick Robin Hood of Jackson. I was the Robin Hood of Jackson. Stole from the homeless to give to the homeless. Because they were kicking people out. They weren't allowing people, they were kicking them out for the wrong reasons, man. They had some guy who was a sex offender around me and my kids, but this couple who was trying to make it was kicked out. All because some woman accused her or something. So, you know, these people were put on the streets, so I was helping them on the side. Eventually, I got kicked out of a homeless shelter, and that's where I camped by Black Chasm Caverns in the old ancient Indian grinding rock site. And so I learned a lot about this area. That's why today I went to Black Chasms and Jackson to kind of return and trace some of a bad time in my life, to face it head on, revisit my fears. But I came here to kind of face my fears. You know, I had people steal from me, break in my car, smash all the windows. I was here a few years ago to fish with my girlfriend, and someone in Jackson in the area. I was parked at the river. There was a couple girls that were watching us. We got there to fish. They took off. They look like meth heads. I come back. Everything's taken. My wallet, my girlfriend's grandmother's necklace, anything. A lousy, shitty night vision camera, which was half broke. They took everything and they split. And I filled out a police report. They never found them. But 3 times I've either been robbed or had something stolen. And then you go look at the crime reports the last few years. Meth, rape, theft, robbery, burglary. So I chose not to live here. But if you're going to visit Jackson and you don't want to be in town with all the small town drama, the drunk drivers, the date rape, there's a couple biker groups who start fights. I know. I mean, like I said, I got in a lot of fights when I lived up here. If you want to come here and get away from the people, this is where you come. The Butte overlooking Jackson. It sits outside of town. The town's below. I'll try to zoom in when we get further. But it's basically on top of the world. At least in Jackson it is. Yeah, there is some history up here. A lot of butterflies, a lot of flowers and wildlife. It's worth just coming to stop. I wouldn't stay here too long. It's now listed as private property, but there's nobody or nothing up here. And I suppose if you hike around here and respect the place, I don't think anybody's going to give a shit. So we'll walk down here, look down the road. Very steep, but that's where Jackson is. You can see all the little roads. You can see Jackson from here. We're going to hike back down off the peak. Not much of a peak, but a couple thousand feet. It's all volcanic. You could picture a massive eruption at one time. The Miwoks inhabited this place for over 1,000 years. Their caverns, their village sites, all still remain in the area in what are gold rush towns of the day. But we're going to head down. Check out our site, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. We visited Black Chasm Caverns today. You can also see other places from the area on our site. And we plan on going to Dry Town in Old Chicago to finish off the day, do some grilling, play some football. I'm not going to grill here. It's just not feasible. But this is your founder, Lord Rick, and Jared behind the cam. He's my sub-producer. And we're on Jackson Butte right now, on top of the world. It doesn't get better than this. When I was homeless, I used to be able to use my cell phone to dial into my radio show. Every 2 weeks we had a show. I remember one time we were at the historic Kennedy mine below, and at the park where the wagon, they have these big water wheels. Man, there's butterflies everywhere. And someone tried to sell me a bag of weed on my show. So I bought a bag of weed right there on my show. I also remember having a show one time where there was like an all-out fist fight. So much drama, you know? But coming back here just brings back memories. It was a hard time in my life, and I survived it. I really did. And now we're back. And I just, you know, wanted to talk on camera about it and just let people know that was a time in my life that was hard. And everything was in my storage. My vehicle broke. They made a mistake. I had to wait 3 weeks for the part. And my ex was so bent on staying in Jackson instead of all these other small towns, we never found a place. And of course, that ended up at, obviously, divorce, which was the best decision of my life, because now I live out this way, not in Jackson, and I'm happy, man. Look at the nature around here. It's beautiful. I'm happy with this place, this region, and I get to visit places like this all the time now. I get to fish, hike, camp, look for Bigfoot, look for ghosts at all these historic hotels and cemeteries. I'm living the dream. I'm living a life, the life. And so we're going to head back down. I'm just parked below. And we're going to go around the corner, Jared and I, so I can do a quick video of Jackson and brief history. It is a historic town. I did multiple haunted places. There are ghosts, but you also have to deal, like I said, with the drama, and it's just a bad situation. But check out our site. You won't be disappointed. We have over 1,100 paranormal investigations, urban explorations, places like this, abandoned buildings like you see here, and we keep doing it up. You know, I'm 41 years old, and I started the Paranormal Ghost Society in my 20s. I'm still at it, and in the world, I'm probably one of the, not only the top paranormal investigator, but I've done more investigations than any other group. A lot of groups come to be 2-3 years. They think they know it all. It's like, but when we do a variety of places like this, including catacombs and caves, we really are a top contender in the paranormal community. It's not for fame or money. It's all about truth, adventure, and friendship. And I hope to never be stuck or stranded here or homeless. I hope to never have, you know, someone try to sell me ecstasy on the streets or rude my vehicle or rob me. It's not a good town to stay in. It's history's splendid here, but there are some shady people. I'm just telling you, with the casino and the people coming for the city, watch yourselves. Don't leave valuables in the car if you go fishing in Jackson. If you come up here and you trespass, be warned that people do have guns and they can get an attitude. Watch out for drunk drivers. Just stay out of the drama, man. Come up here, smoke one, chill out, and be on your merry way. This is Lord Rick. I want to say peace. You can see it's very steep too. Maybe a couple thousand feet. You have the river off in the distance and mountains, but it's very steep. You would not want to climb straight up unless you want to do an endurance hike. It can be done probably in half hour if you push straight up. But I mean, take the road, park up here, you know, smoke a cigar, relax, don't light the place on fire, be responsible. I mean, people last year in 2015, 4 or 5 people died from a fire that started up here. And there are houses, as you can see, look below, there are houses, so you got to be careful. Folks, you can see the city of Jackson below the mountain here. I just wanted to put it into perspective. Like I said, I was homeless there for a few months, nothing long term. When the homeless shelter in Panada, I ended up camping just outside Jackson. We're near Indian Grinding Rock and Black Chasm Caverns, which is a fascinating area. Lots of Native American history, miles of caverns and caves, Bigfoot lore. It was pretty good during that time. However, when Jackson became the county seat of the newly formed Amador County in 1854, and it started off, it was founded in 1848. It was the county's largest city. It still is kind of today. The early gold rush camp it was an early gold rush camp, and it was destroyed by a fire in 1862. It was rebuilt, and it says 42 of the Civil War buildings are standing today on historic Main Street. And yes, I did live downtown, and there's beautiful Victorian homes and stores. I mean, the history here is gorgeous. The cemeteries, but before it was called Jackson, it was called Batillas, and it was given by Mexican and Chilean miners in the area who also resided in Clinton nearby in the stage stop and placer mining community. And they did a lot of placer mining in the creek, which today there's really no gold in the creek, but back then it was abundant. And it says the Chilean miners, as the story goes, were impressed by the numbers of bottles dropped at the spring that served as a watering hole for passing miners. The site of the original well is memorialized with a plaque behind the National Hotel. That's how it got its name back then, of Batillas, named after bottles, basically. You know, the thing about the mine that was here, the Kennedy mine, it operated in the mine operated and it closed in 1878, but in 1886, 15 people invested $100,000 to reopen the mine, and they called it the Kennedy Mine Company, Mine and Milling Company, which we've also investigated. A lot of ghost stories. It had some of the deepest shafts in the world, 6,000 feet. Deepest vertical gold mine in North America at the time. In 1928, a surface fire burned. Men died. The mining office still stands and the stamp mill, but all their buildings and foundations were after the fire built in 1928. It's a creepy little property, and if you roam around, you can find in Jackson at the mining site. You can't really see the Kennedy mine here. Well, you can, sort of. Let me zoom in a little. But if you walk around the Kennedy mining buildings, you can kind of see, you look at some of these buildings, There's a Kennedy mine on the outskirts of town. It has one of the finest mining offices in the state of California. Jared, you got my recorder? Okay. Wait for me at the Jeep. I'll be right there. Unless you want to wait here, you can wait here. Okay. Love you. But it's one of the finest mining offices. You can't really see the Kennedy. It is over here. I don't know how close I'd have to zoom. The head frames, some of the buildings still stand. That's all the Kennedy. Over here's the Kennedy mining property. There's the Kennedy mining office. Look at that. That's the Kennedy mine. It's the old historic mining office. And the head frames and the mill sites are below. I've investigated that. There's a park with some water wheels that's pretty haunted. We also did a haunted mine near the Kennedy that I found, discovered by two brothers. We actually tumbled a 1-ton boulder and got inside the mine. It actually rolled. We were trying to look inside it. It rolled out. We were like, oh. So we went in there and tried to do some mining when I was homeless, a little prospecting. I know that sounds a little low, but they didn't find no gold back in the 1800s, either did we. But it was still cool. We had some ghost experiences, you know. Back then we were homeless with nothing to lose. Life was hard. We were doing what we could. You know, jobs were scarce. It was just a bad time. A lot of homeless people looking for places. As soon as a place came up, it was gone the same day. So I eventually moved back to Vegas, got my divorce, and moved up to the Lake Tahoe area. And I only live 90 minutes from here, so I come and do all sorts of hikes and explorations now out this way. I just don't live here. I just don't have an interest in the foothills. I like to be high up in the mountains. I think most of you would agree Lake Tahoe is rather beautiful, and the peaks are still snow-capped. Hair is rather brown, and very affected by the drought and fire risk here, but it's still beautiful. It's a huge fire risk, and the fire last year killed people here in Jackson. So it's, you know, Jackson's had a history of fires and tragedy and mining accidents. But the Miwoks who lived here, they had villages. There's a lot of creeks, and you know, they would sub at this place. It was very sacred, but they would hunt the areas for seeds, acorns, deer, grass, so forth. And Jackson Butte, just an interesting landmark. You know, when Jackson grew, I mean, it went from a mining camp by Chileans to an all-out city, and stores and saloons, and a lot of the old buildings stand today. Main Street's well intact. The National Hotel has something like 31 resident ghosts because it's burned down. People have died. So there's a lot of history here. A lot. And to stand on top of Jackson and tell my story, it's pretty amazing to be able to share that with you. But Jackson's one of the oldest mining camps. In 1848, when gold was discovered, right away from Sutter's Fort, miners came here. And you know, I've been to some mining sites in Jackson, off in the woods, and some mill sites. But it transitioned to vineyards and orchards and more of a marketing type of city, where downtown's bustling and antiques are for sale. It's just changed over the years because mining was depleted eventually in the area. Especially during World War II, it completely ceased, and the Kennedy mine had closed, and so it's transitioned to more of a tourist town with a lot of attractions and festivals and things. So we're going to back up because that's all we can do. Even in a two-door car or a small economy car, you're still going to have trouble on this road. It is what it is. But I parked at the gate years ago, and this time they have like 10 locks locking it. The abandoned building was really cool. And me and Jared checked it out. There used to be more foundations. I can't find them. Maybe they're off in the woods where it's overgrown. But we're going to turn around up here. Good views. The drought, you can tell the drought's affecting it. Everything's brown and dry. Yeah, I did take some nice pretty pictures of eagles and flowers up here. And I almost got a butterfly in and it flew off, a big one. It's like, ugh. I'm not really looking, folks, except in my mirror. I should be looking.
Yes, you should be.
But I'm using my mirror to kind of guide me. We're almost at the driveway. Not bad for being blind and not looking. Now I'm going to turn it this way a little to even it out. There we go. Stay away from the cliffs, I mean.
That's right.
You don't want to go near the cliffs, man. Here's that driveway. The little house, they're doing some construction. I'm not going to go in it, but somebody's trying to build a house up here and live. It's newer.
Some of the sanitary was a big ass fire.
I don't see nothing burnt. Maybe on the other side. They said it started at the Butte. A lot of interesting history here. A lot of tales of tragedy, like the town burning down and people dying and murders. And Jackson's got a dark history. It's historic, and I don't have the full history because we've already covered that when I lived there. But I have a little bit on the Kennedy mine and when the town began, 1848, the first gold miners came here. And of course they set eyes on this geological feature, and you know, mining was done. They didn't find much at the Butte, but they did, however, find around Jackson along the creek some placer gold, and there's a lot of volcanic rock around Jackson. They found some, you know, smaller cliffs and hillsides riddled with gold. It's very beautiful up here, and it's been years. It's kind of tough to come back here years later knowing what I went through in this town, all the hell I had to experience and bad luck. And one of my last trips in Jackson, or places to go, was this mountain, and here I am, I'm back again on top of this mountain. I was on top of this mountain, and then days later I left the area. I left Jackson, and to stand up it had actually come back with a video camera and a nice camera to take some photos. It's kind of an honor. I just, you know, I'm just done with the town and dealing with the drama and everything. But, you know, I was pretty well known back then. And, of course, recently there's someone who lives in Jackson who was bashing me. But I did a lot of places, a lot of good explorations and historical projects out here. And I had a lot of success and a lot of experiences and talked to a lot of people who had experience with Bigfoot out here. And so it's a, you know, it's a world away from a world. Yeah, the mountain's only a few miles from Jackson. I filmed it for you guys, what the city looks like from up here. But it's a world away from a world. I mean, you don't got people up here bothering you. There's a lot of nature, and you know, within a couple miles, I'll be back downtown Jackson. And I'll probably do one little film from across the mountain on a hillside of Jackson so you can kind of see what the Butte looks like top to bottom, because I only have film from like a few hundred feet below the summit. And then we'll head out of here and we'll go to Dry Town, which has one of the oldest historic pioneer cemeteries, which is off limits, but it's very old, and there are tales of ghost and tragedy in Dry Town, and same with Old Chicago, or New Chicago. And we're going to have a cookout there and finish off our day in those ghost towns and cemeteries. Here's little Rick of the Paranormal Ghost Society saying bye to the Butte. Below the Jackson Butte, there's a lot of old ranches and wood structures. People don't realize a lot of history. As it went from gold mining, well, when the gold mining ended, the era of ranching began. And most of the ranches sit right below Jackson Butte. And this would be one of them. Nice historic barn from 1917. So we're just on the outskirts of Jackson, and Tammy found this sign that says, "Beware burglars in this area." This is a small town, but when they built the casino and modernized the town, it drew in a lot of people from Sacramento and Stockton. And you could see Sacramento and Stockton from Jackson Butte. And I was telling you guys the story how I was robbed multiple times up here. People smashed my windows. So online I got a group of haters that says I was never robbed. I'm making it up to get money. I'm not getting any money out of this. I posted it and want justice. I want to know who stole my stuff, and I want restitution to be paid. I mean, my girlfriend's grandmother's necklace was taken, and things that are important, like photos of a black bear, a cub I took, and sentimental things, you know. It's not about the money. But I just thought this was funny because people say, oh, there's no crime in Jackson, there's no burglars. Not true. Burglary happens consistently in Jackson. So does meth, so does, not so much murder, but there's a lot of date rape. I lived in this town 3 months and seen a guy drug a girl, and me and this dude were going to take him outside and beat him. We got rid of him because he's trying to rape this girl. And I've gotten threatened. I've had my windows smashed, sliced tires. I haven't even done anything. I was just living here and people were trying to steal my shit. And I came here with Tammy years later to go fishing, and someone robbed everything in my vehicle in a little woodsy area just like this. So folks, now you know I'm telling the truth. Beware, there are burglars in this area, which equals Jackson, California. It's true. The sign tells all, and the locals know. We're standing at the Kennedy Mine. This is a vista plate. Jackson's just below. To your right, you can see homes. That's the city of Jackson. That's the Jackson Butte. And you can see the antenna. I stood right below it. It's a volcanic neck, or butte. A couple thousand feet above the town itself. Pretty cool. A lover's makeout area. Park on top, overlooking Jackson. Make a little hanky-panky, right? Well, I'm heading out of Jackson. And it's kind of surreal to return here and to be able to stand on that butte and not have to deal with the drama downtown Main Street, you know, or burglars. This is Lord Rick. Peace out. Check out our site, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. We're standing. Lo and behold, in front of us is Jackson Butte and the Kennedy Mill and Mine. One of the deepest mines in North America. One last look, ladies and gentlemen, at Jackson Butte before I leave. Like I said, it's surreal to be here, considering, you know, all the trials and tribulations I faced. And I still, you know, driving through the town, I still see homeless people, and I still see prostitutes and all those things. I'm not saying Jackson's a bad town. I'm just saying burglary and crime is on a high here. It's not the best place to live. It's very costly, and I struggled. I was homeless for a few months, but I'll tell you what. There are those few buffs, I was happier than ever. I lived in the woods. I hiked every day. I drove down dirt roads. I explored. I seen all this many years ago. But the difference, I didn't have a good camera at the time, or my cell phone wasn't good at taking photos, so I never really got good pictures of the Butte or video footage. This is HD video footage of the Butte. And you got Jackson right below, Vista Point, and then you have the Butte. And I zoomed in earlier, there's the mining office. I was showing you guys that white building. It's kind of hard to see from the Butte, but I have a killer zoom. One of the finest in the state and the county, and then the Kennedy Argonaut Mine, which is haunted. And I've hiked all throughout here. I didn't really make my way to these buildings or the mill, but I did manage to find the original mill foundations. We went in a mine. I found some water wheels and some other remnants of the past, which is on our website, with cheap technology back then, because that's all we could afford. We didn't have that good at cameras, but we did it for the passion and the ideology of being able to explore and check these places out. But we're going to head to Drive Town, Old Chicago. We're going to do some grilling, finish up the night at this haunted area and cemetery or burial ground, and we're going to head back home up to Lake Tahoe, which is about 90 to 100 miles from here. This is Lord Rick. Back in 1848, villages and huts and tents were built here. It was called Botellas by the Mexicans, as I was saying, because they seen the bottles thrown about in this area. In 1849, I changed it to Jackson. Colonel Jackson, early day resident in 1853, Amador County, carved out the Calaveras County and Jackson area, and it became the county seat. In 1886, the Order of Nader Daughters of the Golden West founded here to commemorate the semi-centennial year, and the Order of the Monument was elected. In 1848, the village of huts and tents, they called Botellas by the Mexicans from the bottles thrown about from those who tarried here. In 1849, it was named Jackson, named after Colonel Jackson, an early day resident. And then in 1853, Amador County was carved out. And I mean, this is this is where the tent camp would have sat back in the day, overlooking the Butte and this valley below where Jackson's found. This talks about the Kennedy Mine. I already went over it at the top of the Butte. The Argonaut Mine head frame, which we showed. 47 miners were lost when a fire broke out. It's one of the deepest gold mines in America, and the disaster that occurred was one of the most disastrous mining incidents in North America. Men did die. They were from California, Texas, Austria, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, and Serbia, Illinois, Sardinia, and even Michigan. And they're buried in the cemetery in the valley below. You know, not much remains. I mean, a lot remains of the town, like I say. I'm glad I don't live here. I'm glad the history is preserved. A lot of the residents and business owners are very nice here. But you got a lot of people come up from Sacramento and they want to do drugs, and they just ruin it for everybody who comes here, breaking into people's cars. And, you know, I mean, this is an educational area, and I decided to stop. He has some nice mining equipment. Meeting at Junction of the Creeks. First Serbian Orthodox, hard rock mining, Jackson the Warriors. There's just a lot of history. Jackson gambling. Great Fire Jackson, 1862. Yes, people died. But the Argonaut Kennedy mine, I mean, this is what it looked like. The retort room and mine office is the finest in the state. They had a stamp mill that had 100 stamps located beneath the head frame at the Kennedy. It's just amazing. Argonaut mine, almost 6,000 feet below. They actually had a mine in 1932. The miners got together at 6,000 feet below the surface to have a meeting and dinner here. So, you know, and you can see the head frame right across the road. I mean, this wasn't here when I was living in Jackson, so I wanted to stop and kind of bring you guys a little history. You can see Lake Tahoe on a clear day. When I was on the Butte, you could see all of Sacramento Valley, Folsom Lake.
So right here is where we got robbed.
Yes.
And we were right here today.
Damn.
Yeah,
Where we got robbed.
I was robbed fishing right here. Let's see. I was robbed fishing on Electra Road, and then I was on the mountain. But see, here's the difference. It's not as above as it is below. Below, there's a lot of crime and stuff. Up here, at the top of this butte, there was nobody up there. It was abandoned. Nobody was there. That's the best place to be. National Hotel.
Yep.
I've investigated. I've been to the Argonaut and Kennedy and the Tailing Wheel. This is where I hosted our radio show in Jackson. Then here's the museum. This is downtown Jackson. This is where we are right now.
Yep.
And I've been to all these places when I lived here. It's pretty fascinating. I've also been up to Sutter Creek. I haven't been to the Mine Powder House. There's a lot of historic areas. And of course, if you look, you can put this on your phone too. But the Butte kind of sits off over here. Here's Pine Grove, here's Volcano. We were in Black Chasm Caverns, right by Volcano. Lincoln Mine. I mean, this is, you know, here's Amador City. We've been there, investigated a lot of places on this little map.